Hi everybody. Today I would like to talk about a topic that I've thought about for a couple of weeks now. And it relates to how you fell in love with tea first. Well, if you're watching that kind of video, you can say that you're pretty much in love with tea, where you're quite down the rabbit hole and you've been doing a lot of research, especially about Pu-erh tea and tea farming and stuff. If it's not the case, you probably just got lost on YouTube. And I've been drinking tea for, 12 years now? Even more actually, 14 years. And I think just like me, you can remember the first time you had that great cup of tea and you get that passion that rises in an instant. You get that aha moment, when, you find there's something interesting to be found in this tea. And when you had that moment, it was probably not with the best tea. Actually, it's likely that you didn't know much about the tea you were drinking, but you could just feel that you were going through a great experience. And that's the phenomenon, I could say. Lately, I've been thinking about how to get more people into Pu-erh tea. And okay, the videos I make might be interesting, but they are not aimed at the beginners. People who watch these videos, like me talking for half an hour about how to process Pu-erh tea or manage the weed in a tea garden, people who are watching this kind of video already love tea. But it's not the case, of course, for most of the people. Now I was thinking, what kind of people go to tea shops? And I would say it's mostly quite casual people, while people who buy tea on the internet are already further down the rabbit hole. Now, these people going to tea shops, could we convert them to drinking Pu-erh tea and buying on the internet, for example? And the more that I thought about this, because it's often, when I talk with other tea professionals, it's often what we mention. People start by drinking tea bags, then flavored teas, then maybe green teas, oolong teas, and then eventually they get into Pu-erh. That's one way to go through your tea journey. But as I was drinking that tea, I found out that this is only one of the possible paths that you can take to get into Gongfu brewing, I would say. Actually, I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who would love Pu-erh tea, who would love exploring the different aspects of each terroir, and who would love to spend time and focus on the tea in maybe a kind of meditative Gongfu session, or just trying to look for a sublime moment with tea. And yet, when those people see a tea shop, they are not really interested, because most of the tea shops won't give you that experience. And of course, there are exceptions. There are tea shops who do a phenomenal job at expanding that kind of higher Chinese Gongfu tea culture. But you must admit that it's not the case for the majority of the tea shops who will sell mainly flavored teas. And even when they sell unflavored teas, usually they won't go into too much detail regarding the tea experience. and the description of the teas and everything. It remains quite a casual activity. And so my thinking is how to get those people who don't know anything about tea, but who I know would enjoy very much if they found out that Gongfu tea is such a rich world, actually, and Pu-erh tea. It's just that most people haven't thought about that. They haven't paid attention, and instead they might indulge in other hobbies. Maybe they like to drink whiskey, they like to smoke cigars, they like to enjoy fine cheese. And so how to get in touch with those people and expose them to what Pu-erh tea can, what kind of enjoyment can Pu-erh tea bring to you. Now, we've been in the tea business for about 10 years, and over the years we've hosted quite a lot of tea sessions where we invite people to drink tea. And only these past couple of days I realized that I've been doing it wrong, the way I conduct these tea sessions. Because when I did a tea session in the past, it was basically a 4 or 5 hours long YouTube video. I would just talk with people for hours. People would ask questions. I would give a lot of explanation, go into much detail about the terroir, the tea agriculture, the processing, etc. But I find out that when you get that opportunity to gather around a cup of tea, I think it's not the appropriate time to transmit a lot of knowledge. I think you'd rather have people focus on the tea experience, create the experience for them. So that means, of course, having decent tea to brew, having some nice teaware maybe that people would like to spend time enjoying, such as this nice piece made by Viter Ceramic in Ukraine. And of course, having a nice environment. So there's a variety of ways you can have the nice environment. You could set up your tea room in a way that's engaging for the people. You could just take advantage of the beauty of nature and just go to a national reserve or even a public park, find a nice spot and set your teaware maybe just on a rock. You could even brew tea on the ground and have people sit on the ground and feel a better connection with the elements, you could say. And in the past, I kind of neglected all those elements because I thought that hosting a tea session was mainly about transmitting, giving knowledge, giving information to people. But I realized that YouTube or blog articles, it's a fine way to acquire information, and you don't really need to meet people in person to broadcast that information. Now, an experienced tea practitioner, I think, would be able, with a bit of experience, I guess, of trial and error, I think that kind of tea practitioner, we could call him a tea ambassador. That tea ambassador could give people who've never thought about tea a sublime experience if it's done well. A sublime experience that would trigger that sparkle in people's mind and would push them to learn about tea. When, for example, people say that Pu-erh tea is hard to sell in a tea shop, for example, because people don't know how to brew tea. I think what you should do, what really matters is not provide them with information on how to brew tea. What matters is that you give them the will, you give them that sparkle that will push them to find by themselves how it should be brewed. Because let's be honest, it's not very complicated, and there's already a lot of information available on how to brew tea. And if the person has had that sublime experience in one session of tea, they will go down the rabbit hole quite easily, and they will be driven by that impulse that's been given by the sublime experience they had in the first place. So what I found out over the last week is that the experience matters more than knowledge, at least at the beginning, for people who don't really understand what tea is about. And I'd like to spread that message to more people, be a kind of tea evangelist, Gongfu evangelist. I don't know if the wording is right, but I can see that a few people could be pushed by that ideal. Why do you want to spread the tea culture? Well, of course, you could say, in my position, it could be to expand my business, to make more money. But you could say that I could as well sell some more mainstream tea, and that would allow me to expand my business and make more money as well. But I don't want to do that. I'm still pushed by that ideal of the, you could say that the high quality tea session. The tea session is of high quality, not necessarily the tea leaves. Now, of course, if you want to give people that experience, it's better to brew them some decent teas. But you can understand that beginners maybe won't be able to make the difference between, between a Jingmai, a Gushu from Jingmai, and a Gushu from Nanluoshan, for example. What would matter, and before trying to make any comparison, before having people learn about the terroirs, they must first acknowledge that there is that special thing in the tea. When I got that click for the tea, for the Pu-erh tea, what made me decide to give up my studies in France and go to China just after I had graduated from high school? Well, it was one tea session. It was at Christmas, and it was in 2009. And at that time, I had found an aged Shu Pu-erh, and I was just brewing it in a simple teapot, nothing fancy. I didn't have that Gongfu style at the time, and I was alone with that tea, and in the time of a few cups, I had decided that I would go and explore that Pu-erh tea. In life, we have free will, but we cannot decide what we want to do. I think there's an inner drive. There's something in us that tells us what we should do. And for me, if I want to do something, then I must do it. It's like a commitment. If there's something you want to do, and that of course it seems reasonable to do it, then you must be committed to taking action and doing that stuff. And so one of my missions in life, I think, is to promote that Pu-erh tea culture. But I find out that my power is limited in this prospect. I can make those YouTube videos, but I don't have the skill, I think, to convey that sense of sublime through a YouTube video. I think it would be better to meet in person, to organize tea sessions with people where people can just enjoy the tea silently, and you try to create that sublime phenomenon for them. And of course it will be hit and miss, but maybe we can see the sublime occurring into some people's mind. Now the problem is, I cannot go all over the world to spread that message because I'm busy in Yunnan making tea and dealing with tea matters in the tea mountains. But I was thinking about you who have been watching my videos for months or maybe years. If you too share my passion for tea, maybe you also have that will to spread the knowledge, to organize tea sessions for people and try to get the light in their eyes, or have something happen and spread the sublime part of tea. And I think you could be tea ambassadors. I thought about different ways of doing this, and I think money would better not be involved in that kind of scheme. Otherwise it would somehow corrupt the purity of that idea, although that can be discussed, of course. I'd like to encourage people to spread the knowledge of tea. And for this, I could give you free samples, I could give you extra tea if you commit to spreading that tea knowledge. So I want to set up a kind of tea ambassador program, but it wouldn't be a formal program, okay? I believe a lot in soft power. Of course, you can do some contractual things, but I think tea being what? A set of ideas, a set of phenomenon, I think it's better for these ideas to remain in a kind, well, you could say like it's a bit like a religion. You have the organized part of a religion, which is like the church and things, but these are just the administrative part of the religion. The true religion is in every person's faith. And I'm not saying tea is a religion, but it's an ideal. In that prospect, it's quite the same as a religion. It's if you're a bit pessimistic like I am, that kind of ideal is what keeps you away from the terrible realities of our world. So, for example, you could say, we live a miserable life, we're all gonna die, and while waiting for our death, maybe we can just enjoy tea. And that thing you do is totally ridiculous, right? I don't know, you could drive fast cars, or you could watch movies, or do nothing, but you can also drink tea. There's a certain absurdity in following a hobby. But on another hand, we can only move forward and kind of create that ideal for ourselves and strive for strive for either spreading it or going further into that ideal, exploring that ideal. Because I think that's what life is about. It's just about exploration, and we can explore different aspects of life, or we can either also choose not to explore it. Now, it happens that you and me have chosen tea as part of our explorations. And maybe there's something we should do to spread it even further, to try to share that passion with people. Now, some of you might think that you don't really care about other people. Actually, what matters is to enjoy the hobby yourself. And then comes my second idea. I was browsing through Instagram, for example, and seeing a lot of people taking pictures of their teas and said, "Hello, today I had that Jingmai 2018 black tea, and it has this taste and that taste in the first infusion, second infusion. Here is my overall impression of the tea." Why do you think people do that? And really, I don't think they do that for the likes, because in the tea community, you won't get that many likes anyway. I guess the likes were on that treadmill with social media of collecting as much attention as we can. But I'm sure people who do that, most of them do not have that intention. They do that for themselves. What matters is not to post the article on Instagram. All the enjoyment is in writing the post. If I say, I'm gonna drink tea and just watch a movie while drinking tea, I won't fully enjoy the experience of tea. Now, if I know I'm gonna post something on Instagram on that tea, and I have that also when I have to write the descriptions for the tea. So in a couple of days, I will have my tea cakes pressed, or new tea cakes, and I will have to sit down at this table and gather a lot of focus in order to evaluate those teas properly. These sessions might be the most exciting ones of the year because there is stakes actually. I have to properly understand that tea. I have to do a good job at tasting the tea in order to write a good product description. And I think when people prepare an Instagram post, they kind of challenge themselves. They say, okay, I'm going to have to write about the details of that tea, and just being in that mindset helps them conducting a better tea session. They get more enjoyment out of the tea than if they hadn't planned to do that Instagram post. And so you can think that if you have if you have to prepare for tea sessions, for example, you're gonna meet other people and you're gonna introduce the tea to them. Well, it will push you to perfect your Gongfu brewing method and to understand more things about setting up the right environment and having people enjoy that cup of tea. And then maybe talking a bit about the different teas, animating discussions about the differences between teas, collecting people's feel about the tea. And I think even if you're selfish, even if your goal is not to share the passion with people, I think still conducting that kind of tea session can be beneficial to the exploration of your art. So I know we're going through harsh times, especially if you're located in Europe or the US. But I would love it if people could just act as tea ambassadors, see themselves as some kind of spreaders, or at least, because you can't force, you don't force people to love the tea, and giving more information to people, talking about your passion, it doesn't work. Actually, sharing the passion is mainly trying to have people get that experience, and some of those people will get into it. So I wish I could be in Europe, going through Europe or through the US, and doing those kinds of tea sessions. But even me, I'm not sure I would be the most skilled person at creating that kind of environment. And I feel that my position is more in the mountains in Yunnan, at least for now. But I'm sure some of you would do a better job than I would do at doing this kind of stuff. And so, well, if you're interested, I think you can contact me, and we can maybe have a talk, and I can support you with samples, for example. So the deal would be that I give you a couple of samples, and you can try them first and prepare for the pick the ones that you'd like to bring to the tea sessions. You look for people who you think would feel something when drinking that tea with you, and then you brew them the tea. And of course you can keep all the extra samples. I can send it to you for free. But of course, before that, I'd like to have a talk with you. It'd be great to know more of you, actually, and also share some discussions about the tea. So what you can do, if you're interested, just go to the contact page of my website, and hopefully we'll talk. I have no idea how this approach is going to turn out, but that's something I'd like to try. It's worth giving a shot, I think. We'll see how it goes. I would really like more people to understand that Gongfu style brewing, because it's so different from the current casual tea culture that we find in the West. And I did that video on elitism while making tea in Jingmai, and I still in that video you can get my mindset, my opinions about this. I would be in for a more elitist approach. I think the elitist approach is fine as long as there is an effort to share it, and I'm sure some people will understand what this is about. So now I'm gonna maybe stay in silence here and enjoy that black tea. I hope you're having good tea sessions at home, and hopefully see you soon. Bye bye.